Every 18 hours, another African American child is born into poverty. There are 83,000 people living in poverty in Westchester County. That means a family of 4 earning $20,000 or less. People pay for sweet 16s at $20,000. We're expecting families of 4 to live on that in Westchester County. People of color are twice as likely to be poor than whites. 70% are female and 83% are U.S. residents, not the image that is generally portrayed. Racism is persistent and enduring disparities. Racism is the difference between the life chances of white people and people of color. We need to begin to ask ourselves, whenever we hear anything about the employment, dropout rate, anything, would you please break that down by race? Because if you do that, that's when ugly, ugly, ugly racism appears, when we see the disparities. For instance, unemployment in New York City is 6%. But when you ask, what is it for people of color, they'll tell you that 50% of the men in New York City are unemployed. The gap is where it lives. We've been living with the Rockefeller drug laws for 30 years. That Rockefeller drug laws has been just devastating communities for 30 years. We know that white communities and communities of color use and sell drugs at about the same rate, yet the Rockefeller drug laws is responsible for incarcerating. The incarceration rate for the Rockefeller drug laws is 94% people of color. 94% people of color. That is devastating the communities of color, particularly in New York City. School dropout rate, measurements of wealth. White wealth is 11 times that of wealth of color. One could be baffled by this, and I was baffled by this. And so were so many of the social workers in this room. And then Phyllis Frank from Rockland County and Ron Figueroa brought us to an Undoing Racism workshop, and we were baffled no more. The People's Institute for Survival and Beyond has, for 30 years, provided us with a clear analysis of what racism is, from our history, how it functions, how it operates, and the hope rests in what we can do about it. We learned that racism is baked into the foundation of this country, it's baked into the structures of this country, the architecture of this country, and in fact it's baked into each one of us. I can hear David Billings say right now, social services will never bring about equity. People are not poor because they lack social services. People are poor because they lack power. Study after study documents very well the effects of racial discrimination on the health and well-being of people of color. It sets a whole cascade of reactions. Not talking about those reactions to one another and not doing anything about those reactions even exacerbates that. So organizing to undo racism is a positive clinical benefit, and we've seen that among all of us who started to organize, to undo something that we all participate in that we never, ever, ever agreed to. Now I hear Ron Chisholm, the co-founder of the People's Institute, saying, racism dehumanizes us, and undoing racism brings humanity back. That workshop is a wake-up call to all of us. It gives us clarity, it gives us hope, but most of all, it gives us a strategy, a way for us all to work together to bring about the equity that we say that we want in our society. The People's Institute's training for the people who we have met are remarkably fully human, waking up each morning for 30 years, not distracted by multiculturalism, not distracted by building tolerance, although all of that is important, but waking up telling us this is how racism was constructed in our society, this is how it was done, this is how it functions, now we can work together to undo it. So we had that opportunity in Westchester County. Okay. I ask each and every one of you to complete the workshop, to be part of the Anti-Racist Alliance. It's a movement for racial equity. Join the hundreds of people who have done it in Westchester, hundreds and hundreds of educators from the schools of social work at Fordham, Columbia, Hunter, Yeshiva, the clergy, ACS in New York City. NASW, Westchester Division. We have the People's Institute here. Let's take advantage of that resource. They are offering us everything they have. What we need to do is conserve some of our energy and not let the delivery of social services exhaust us. Save some energy, save some money, save some time. Because if we don't do that, there'll never be enough time and there'll never be enough money to undo racism. So I invite everybody to work together, to quote the People's Institute, to build a safety net that works. We can do this. Thank you.